Hello and happy Veterans Day, 11/11/25, and hopefully everybody's doing well. As I promised, I was going to do another video of basically airborne Vietnam. This won't be a long one, but it'll be kind of explaining what happened. We do know from my MiG-17 video that this was the main numerically superior fighter of the Vietnamese People's Liberation Army Air Force, or PL blah blah blah, or just North Vietnamese Air Force for sake of being more on top of things. This plane was designed as a straight line bomber interceptor, transonic fighter, top speed of 711 miles an hour, but in a slow turning fight, it was highly maneuverable because of the way the wings were and because of the advancements, aerodynamic advancements in the wings that allowed it to be more controllable at higher speeds, thus giving you a very decent and good fighter plane. Its main opponents were American Mach 2, some Mach 1, but mostly Mach 2 plus long range fighters that were not made for maneuver at low speeds. They were like, the F4 Phantom, the F-105 Thunder Chief, and the plane that I have, because it's the only Cobi one that's relevant and similar, the F-104 Starfighter. So you're looking at a plane here that's Mach 2, would have been armed with 4 sidewinders, early sidewinders, B2 there, and then 2 on pylons underneath. So it would carry 4 sidewinders, and it was the first airplane to have on this side of the fuselage right there, the Vulcan 20mm 6-barrel Gatling gun cannon. So this plane had it. This plane is incredibly fast. It's considered a lightweight fighter, but it's considered an interceptor. They're not made to maneuver in a dogfight. They're made for high-speed interception of Soviet bombers at high altitude, locking on, shooting them down. This fighter was all-weather capable and had a good, strong radar. Where the MiG-17s that would have encountered it were not. They were planes that were, how should I say this, day fighters. Some of them had a limited radar. There was a little radar thing on it for the gun sights, so they could use it to control the guns. But aside from that, I mean, this is basically what you see is what you kind of get fighter plane. But it's a very good and very rugged what you kind of get fighter plane that would do well for the Vietnamese People's Air Force. What it had to do is it had to lure a plane like this into a turning dogfight. A plane like this, look at the wings. They're trapezoidal wings. Okay, they're made for speed, kind of like a drag racer, just, and that's what this plane does. That's what the Thunder Chief does. The Thunder Chief was a fighter that could be also used as a nuclear strike plane, fighter bomber. But the F-4 Phantom was actually the first tactical fighter. Extremely fast, sort of maneuverable, but not really. It was a big plane. It had 2 of these J-79 engines in it. And it was kind of big, loud, noisy, fast, but it could not maneuver tightly. I seen those at air shows when I was a kid, the F-4. Loud, obnoxious, scary looking, but not really a maneuverable plane. I've seen F-16s, F-15s, F-18s, F-14s. That one would be more what you would consider to be what a fighter plane does. Tactical fighter plane has many roles, and they're not as loud and as obnoxious as a J-79 engine powered Phantom or the Starfighter. Starfighter actually was more nimble than the Phantom, but still to go in a low speed turning dogfight in this plane with a MiG-17 or a plane like the MiG-17 would have been suicide. The MiG-17 is actually slightly, I think, bigger than the Starfighter. The Starfighter is long, thin, but not as big. But what the Starfighter had, a lighter weight, I believe, and speed. These Starfighters were used properly. The ones that were down in Vietnam were down by SAM, surface air missiles. We didn't have the chaff and other things that interfere with the SAM or a Wild Weasel yet flying to disrupt the SAM so the fighter planes could do whatever. I don't know if there are any F-104s that were Wild Weasels. Wild Weasels are planes that fire Shrike anti-radiation missiles, which could take out and mess up a surface-to-air missile. Plus, they had an electronic thing that made weird noises that would interfere with the electronic launch systems and tracking systems of the SAM missiles. So that would come later in Vietnam. I'm talking about right now, 64, 65. You would have had these starfighters flying up high over the F-105 Thunder Chiefs, which fast but no maneuverability at all. The reason initially they stayed away from the F-105s, they were afraid of the Starfighter. The Starfighter is a very fast plane and can go from low to high altitude. Boom, I'll climb basically the MiG 17 or whatever else they had. And it had the Vulcan gun. The Vulcan gun, when it came out, and there were issues with it, feed issues because it was fed by barrels, could disintegrate a plane in 2 seconds because you had a Gatling gun that was firing 6 20 millimeter cannon around, one little spin and pow, plane gone. And if you fly this plane to its strengths, which is its speed and ability to run, boom and zoom kind of, and you were to lock on to like something like this, and if I hope I don't drop this plane, the Vulcan gun would literally obliterate this plane. I mean, turn it into mulch. Even though the kinetic projection of 1 20 millimeter shell was not that great, you had 6 of them coming at you, so it was just like a Swiss cheese shredder. And when the Vulcan worked, because like I said, there was early Vulcans that were in here, it was devastating. And this plane, if you flew this plane at strengths, this plane wouldn't even touch the MiG-17, would not even touch the Starfighter. The Starfighter, in a turning dogfight, would have had problems. It would have had to rely on its speed to get away, and it could accelerate faster, I believe, than the Phantom or Thunder Chief. That was the only thing that this thing had. There's not a lot of information about what would have happened if these two would have encountered each other. I'm only going to assume, and then I'll bring that assumption up in a second here. The jungle, the humidity played havoc with the electronics. So on this, it would mess up the Sidewinder missiles, which are basically the cheapest missile that we have, but actually an effective dogfighting missile. Now, because of the way Vietnam was, the atmosphere, the humidity, and everything else, it played havoc with electronics because Vietnam, like I always said to people, it was a weapons test bed and a tactics test bed. And it was horrible because they drafted people to go there. They tested out tactics using helicopters to bring troops to battle, something we do now today. They came up with that in Vietnam. Tactical fighters that could do multi-role stuff did that in Vietnam. What we have today, the F-15E that can drop bombs and go and fight and do all that other nice stuff, and the newest version, and any version of the F-16 or F-18 for that matter, Vietnam. A plane defense point fighter would be interceptor or pursuit, which would be a World War II context of thinking, was used in the Starfighter. The Starfighter was designed to be an interceptor. Fighter plane, yes. But later, when computers and fly-by-wire came in, they modified the heck out of this plane, taking out some of the little mystique and danger of it and making it a pretty reliable aircraft. Italy and NATO had great luck using the Starfighter as one of its tactical fighters, and they use it up to like not too long ago. There are none flying anymore. There might be a few MiG-17s flying, but once again, to make this plane equal to this plane, you would have to lure this plane into a turning dogfight, which would be this plane's forte. This thing could turn, it could corkscrew. A Starfighter, all it could do is just hit the throttle and quick out. Because of that, the MiG-17 did not encounter nor shoot any Starfighters down. The Starfighters that did go down in Vietnam, one or two of them went down from SAM in ground fire because they got too low to the ground and got caught, which is a thing that can happen to any jet, even an F-35. One of them was shot down by a MiG-19, which is a supersonic aircraft. It accidentally flew over Hainan Island in China, and it was intercepted and I believe shot down via missile or by 30 millimeter cannon on the MiG-19. I'm not sure. Pilots survived and stayed in prison, kind of basically prisoner of the Chinese, until Richard Nixon worked out a way to get him out in '73, and so he wound up coming home. I have to do a little video on that, maybe a little historical backing, give a little bit more information on stuff. But basically, this plane did pretty well. I mean, it did not get in any dogfights, which I never thought that it would when I started searching it up, because this is a interceptor. Interceptors intercept bombers. They were made to dogfight because of necessity in the Korean War. The F-86 Sabre was designed as a kind of a fighting pursuit interceptor fighter role, but this plane here, when it came out, was intended to shoot bombers down and wound up being a very effective dogfighter and a very decent plane. Like I said, we used by other air forces, but for now, before I finish this thing up, Vietnam was very successful. They had two squadrons that flew these. They had two pilots that shot six planes down, each two aces, and they basically were like a nemesis for all these fancy American fighter planes. Highly sophisticated, fancy electronics, all weather capable, could fly at night. But the electronic systems, they've not perfected a way to make them like kind of eternal, like they are now, impervious to weather and stuff. Because, like I said, Vietnam test bed. It's how they perfected systems on planes, weaknesses that these planes suffered going into combat. The same with the rifles, the M16. The M16 was introduced. Oh, you don't need to clean it, and it's fine. No problems. Well, they were using ball ammo, which is dirty ammo, and anybody that has no shoots 22 rifles and pistols. No, basic 22 ammo is ball ammo. It's filthy. You have to continuously clean your weapon out, or your firearm. Let's say weapon because you're using the target shooting stuff, but to make sure that the gunpowder residue didn't form and foul up. And in Vietnam, you had humidity, high temperatures, expansion and contraction kind of things. It was horrible. How they fixed that was they chrome lined the barrel and issued cleaning kits and basically told people you got to clean and maintain these like regular. They're fine, and they changed them around. But that's not what this video is about. But I'm just explaining it in lieu of what Vietnam was. These planes actually did well because the Soviet Union flew them everywhere, and they had no problems with them. In fact, this plane, the first plane shot down, was an American reconnaissance plane. They didn't think this thing could get up high enough, and it did, and shot it down. And the Chinese actually used these also, and I think the Chinese lost several of these from Taiwanese F-86 Sabres, and the Taiwanese also had the Starfighter, and I believe they used Sidewinder missiles and shot Chinese planes on Taiwanese Air Force flying the Sidewinder equipped Starfighters, but I'm not sure. So basically, that's it in a nutshell. From 1964 to 73, you have this little air war in Vietnam, U.S. and the North Vietnamese Air Force. And the whole thing was, how was this going to be? We were bombing. How do we stop us from bombing would be the thing of the North Vietnamese. And how do we be successful and not lose expensive aircraft and equipment in a kind of a combat that we weren't used to. We were used to that kind of environment in the South Pacific in World War II, but you talk about extreme climate and other things, and that's what you had to come into play with Vietnam. So when these planes did encounter, if they did, it would just be a passing kind of a glance thing, this thing flying up and away, this one trying to get in position to use its cannon to down it, but for the most part, no. But that's what would have been a struggle for a North Vietnamese pilot. These planes up on top covering those F-105 Thunder Chiefs down there. What do? Do you intercept them? Yes, but are these guys going to come down to intercept you? And that was the fear. This plane instilled a lot of fear because, like I said, it's a lightweight interceptor that was extremely fast. Used the correct way, you're all set. So that's it on the F-104 Starfighters. It'll go into museum status behind me there, but I will bring it out because I want to do a couple more videos. I'm kind of interested in this plane. And if you'd like to see more videos about this beautiful plane, and I've built models of this 1/72nd scale when I was a kid using glue and paint. I much prefer this. Much healthier to build these kind of kits. You have to breathe the fumes into the paints and everything else, and there you go. I noticed that some person commented they like this plane. I'm glad because I think this is one of Cobi's better kits. And what I'm doing next, I am working on a Sumbro J35, my first ever time with a Sumbro model. I put together the action figure, the pilot, and the articulation, and I've been to Brickmania store. This little guy, this Chinese pilot, the detail, the ability to put everything together on him and just the way everything works, I'm super impressed. I can't wait to build this plane and see what happens. This is a higher scale Chinese model. That's, from what I'm hearing, equivalent to Cobi or to Lego Brickmania. We'll see what happens with it. Once again, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed my little video. I will be doing more, and I'm going to do some videos of the J35A as I build it, culminating in one completed. But that's it for today. Enjoy, everybody, and thank you for watching once again.